A couple weeks ago, I came up with 3 exercises for one of my marriage coaching clients, and I realized that they're way too good not to share. So today I'm gonna go through them with you. These are exercises that I did while I was growing my business, but I found a way to apply them to marriage. And they might just be the thing that you need to save your marriage or take it to the next level. Stick around. If it's your first time here, my name is Michael Riggs. I'm a full-time author, entrepreneur, men's personal development, and marriage mentor, husband and father of 6. I know, 6 kids, that's a lot of kids. But I teach men all over the world how to live fully optimized, leveled up lives and how to have happy, thriving marriages. So if that's something you're into, definitely stick around, subscribe to this channel, because that's what we do here all the time. Talk about man stuff, talk about how to be a good father, leader, husband, and king of your kingdom. And the first exercise that I want to share with you today is called What, Why, How, and it's displayed here on my very glary whiteboard. There's a window over there, by the way. And what this looks like in business back when I did this exercise is, what is it? And I knew what my business was, but the point of this exercise isn't to necessarily identify these things. You might say, well, I already know the answer to that. We'll get to that in a minute, but it's basically just to bring more clarity and more vision instead of having scattered thoughts about the thing, right? So what this looked like in my business was what? Well, my what for my business was something along the lines of a one-man content empire. Then the why. Why do you want to do this? Well, I want to teach men all over the world how to live fully optimized lives and how to have happy, thriving marriages and be their best selves, right? I got clarity on that. How are you going to do it? Well, I'm going to write books. I'm going to post podcast episodes consistently. I'm going to post content consistently. I'm going to regularly engage with my community, and the list went on there. And that brought me more clarity about what I was doing in my business. Now, how does this apply to marriage? Well, what? You might say, oh, that's pretty obvious. It's a marriage. I want to have a happy marriage, or I want to have a happier marriage, right? Well, write that down. But go deeper than that. So what? A happy marriage. And then you can go deeper than that. You can say where we have a better connection. Maybe even like we had before. And like I said at first, it's going to seem pretty obvious. The what is you want to have a happy, thriving marriage, right? But this brings clarity. So you're going to go through all the things of the what and what that looks like. This will bring clarity of the end goal, right? Why? Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to have a happy, thriving marriage, a better connection like you had before, and whatever else you put on this list, Maybe it's something like ultimately to have a happier life. Why? Because I love her. And then list on from there all of your whys. And this will bring clarity to the why for the what. Same as I did in my business, right? How? How are you going to do this? Well, maybe you say something like, I'm going to actually take time to listen to her. Actually listen. Maybe you say something like, I'm going to give her more of my time and attention. If you're one of those guys who struggles with having quality time with your wife because you're very busy with business and, the complexities of life, maybe you're going to say, I'm going to spend more quality time with her. And then this how will give you clarity on the entire big picture. You know what I'm saying? Because you know the what. This is the goal. Why? You want to actually have a happy life. You want to have a connection with your wife. You want to, because you love her, whatever the why is, if it's really bad, say, I don't want us to be miserable and arguing anymore. You know what I'm saying? So, and then you have the how are you going to do this? This exercise right here, while it might seem very basic and simple at first in concept, and you might just run off in your head really quick, what, why, how? No, actually write this stuff down, dude, because it's not obvious. When you actually take the time to write something down, it brings clarity to the thing. You might think of things that you didn't even think of before, and it will give you clear direction on how to attack this. And when it comes to the how strategies, I know from firsthand experience that most guys have no idea how. That's why I have a marriage coaching business and I teach this stuff for a living. Good news is, bro, I put this book out in January. It's called Warrior Husband, How to Be a Better Husband and Save Your Marriage. And I put pretty much everything that I know about marriage relationships and communication with women and how to have a happy, thriving marriage into this one book. This is available in ebook, paperback, and audiobook with digital voice. And there's a link for this in the description of this video on the link tree. So if you truly want to know how to have a happy, thriving marriage, you need this book. The second exercise that I have for you today is the 80-20 rule. Don't you love my handwriting? The 80-20 rule is the second exercise today. And the 80-20 rule states that 80% of results come from 20% of actions, and the remaining 80% of actions produce 20% results. So what this exercise does is it gives you clarity about what actions to take. You remember the how that we talked about before? This will bring clarity to what's the most effective out of all the strategies that you find of how to correct the path of your marriage with your wife. Because like this rule states, 80% of results come from only 20% of actions. And one mistake that lots of guys make is they try 10,000 different things, and that has the potential to, one, overwhelm your wife, or two, not even be effective because you're scattered and all over the place, desperate trying to make something work, right? So in business, the 80-20 rule looks like writing down all the tasks that you need to do and then kind of rating them on a scale, like giving them percentages and things like that. Like, what has the most impact? You find the handful of things. Let's say you write down 10 things, 10 strategies. Which of those 2 or 3 strategies is going to have the most impact moving you towards your goal or where you want your business to go, right? And that doesn't disregard all of the other tasks. You don't get rid of those. You just understand that 80% of results is going to come from 20% of those actions. And that gives you clarity on which ones to focus on. And then that remaining 80% of actions produce the rest of the 20% of results. So what I want you to do is list 10 things, 10 strategies that you feel are moving you in the direction of having a happy, thriving marriage. Maybe you've tried some things before, or maybe you want to, maybe you read this book and get some ideas. So we're going to write some down, right? 1, listen. Truly listening to your wife is the foundation of my work. 2, like we said before, quality time. Spend quality time together. Can't spell. And then you're going to go on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can count. So you're going to list 10 things that you feel had a positive impact or created change. Now I want you to pick 2 or 3 out of that list that you made that you feel had the most impact and focus on those. And like I said, you're not going to get rid of all those other things because you have determined that they make an impact. They have been leading to change in your marriage. I just want to give you clarity on those 2 or 3 things that are going to have the most impact so that you can focus on those so that you're not scattered and all over the place trying 10,000 different strategies, right? So don't exclude the others. Just remember that 80% of results come from 20% of actions. And this will give you clarity on what is actually working. And that is the second exercise, the 80-20 rule. And the third and final exercise that I have for you guys today is called short-term sacrifice for long-term gains. I didn't space this out really well, so I put LT for long-term, but this is short-term sacrifice for long-term gains. Another business concept. Got a little dark in here. The sun went behind a cloud or something. Hope this still looks all right. But short-term sacrifice for long-term gains. So what this looks like for me in my life and applying it to my business is, for example, I live in a rental right now while I'm building my business. And the short-term sacrifice is things like keeping up with the Joneses, those type of things, like having a big house, having a super nice car, all these things. Going into massive debt to be able to do that. I've decided to live a simple life, live in a rental while I build my business, and then someday I will be able to do things like get a big house, get a nice car, all these things, right? So that's short-term sacrifices for long-term gains. And you might be asking yourself, Michael, how does this apply to marriage? Well, I'm going to tell you. Sometimes you need to make short-term sacrifices for long-term gains in your marriage, just like in business or anything else. What are some things that you need to sacrifice in the short term to better your marriage? I know a guy guy as an example, and he was spending a lot of time with friends, and his wife felt alienated from those friends. And she expressed it in a way like, I just feel like they're on your team or you're on their team. She felt like there were two separate worlds, one that she wasn't a part of, and this was causing a huge conflict in their marriage. And so he decided, I can't cut off my friends. I can't just, lose all my friends and choose my wife over everyone. But what I can do is step back for a little while, make sure that she knows that I'm on her team, and then re-engage with friends once we're settled and know that we're good. After I have proved that I'm on her team, then I can implement the friends thing back into it and show her that she's friends with them too. Nobody thinks anything of you. But the short-term sacrifice is, stepping back from spending so much time with friends to make sure that she knows that he is on her team. So that's an example of a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. Let's say your wife has a problem with something you do all the time. Like she says you play too much video games. You're like, I'm going to do what I want to do. That's another good example. Maybe you need to put video games away for a little while. Make sure that you focus on your marriage. Make sure that everything's good with that. And then someday you can play video games occasionally instead of all day long. Maybe you can empathize and understand with her. That's another example of a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain in your marriage. Putting something away for a while for the benefit of leveling your marriage up. So what I want you to do in this exercise is kind of reflect, get your journal out, get your paper out or whatever again, and write down what are some things that I need to sacrifice in the short term to correct the course of my marriage. And these come down to things that maybe your wife has a problem with, vices, habits, they could be little things, they could be big things. Like I was talking about my buddy before who had the issue with the friend groups and his wife feeling disregarded and alienated from that. Maybe it's a big thing like that. But again, another exercise that will bring you clarity on what you need to do moving forward. What do you need to sacrifice in the short term for the long-term gain of having a happy, thriving marriage? Because here's the thing, man, and here's what it really comes down to. You committed to spending the rest of your life with this woman, and there is nothing more important than that. Making sure that your marriage is happy and thriving is the number one thing. So it's time to get to work. So that's what I got for you guys today here on this video. I hope you got something out of this. I hope these exercises helped you get some clarity or will help you, because you got to sit down and actually do these exercises, bro. We're not just talking about it, you're going to do it. And again, that's the what, why, how, the 80-20 rule, and short-term sacrifices for long-term gains. Definitely stick around, subscribe to this channel. This is what I do here all the time. If it's your first time here, I also have a podcast called the Warrior Kings Podcast that's on video form on here as well. Definitely check that out. Tons of valuable information on there. Links in the description to my link tree. You can find my books on there, find out more about me, subscribe to my mailing list, all those types of things. It's all on there. Thank you for watching today, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.